Hello, we're going to talk about genetic engineering today and how do humans take advantage of naturally occurring variation among organisms. Well, the process is called biotechnology, and it's the science of manipulating the genetic makeup of an organism. And we've been doing this for a long time. You may not be familiar with how we're doing this. I shouldn't say that. You're very familiar with how we're doing this. It just isn't thought of as a science. And it's where you select for traits that you like. And let's talk about it. So one of these is selective breeding or artificial selection. In nature, organisms select their mates, and they select them many different ways. Males, when it comes to animals, the males will court the females, then the females select the male, and that's really true in many bird species. But now, what if we have humans that pick the animals that will breed together? For instance, let's talk about these pigs down here. Here we see a wild pig, and we have a domesticated pig. Over time, people tried to manipulate the wild pig and only allow ones that were somewhat tame to breed, and they did that repeatedly for thousands of years, and they came up with a tamer pig. And they selected ones that were safer without the big tusks. So if they picked one that had small tusks and bred it to another one with small tusks, they'd get some with small tusks and maybe some with very little or no tusks, those big teeth. And over time, they were able to reduce that size to make the animals safer to work around. So selective breeding, you're looking for organisms with desirable trait. This happens to be the ancestor to the modern day corn. And this is the corn cob of what it used to look like. Here's the modern day corn cob. But by continually selecting plants that produce larger cobs, they were scientists, but really they were farmers selected for corn. Now scientists are working to make this even bigger than it is today. Let's talk about plants for just a second. The common ancestor to all of these domesticated plants was a wild mustard plant. And it was a type of brassica plant. And over time, people would look at that brassica plant, that wild plant, and they'd find one and say, oh, those leaves taste good. Let's pick one that produces a lot of leaves and then breed it to another one that has a lot of leaves, or breed it back to itself. And with plants, that's pretty easy when you manipulate the flowers. And by doing that, they're able to produce something very leafy like cabbage, or something very leafy like kale. But maybe they selected it for a real thick stem and did that over and over again, and they created kohlrabi. The common dog's ancestor was a wolf. We'll talk about that later. So, selective breeding. When we think about selective breeding, we think about kind of two ways to do this: inbreeding and hybridization. Inbreeding means that you're going to breed two similar organisms together. And what I mean by that is when you talk about corn, you're going to breed sweet corn to sweet corn, or field corn to field corn. You want to breed two similar organisms. If you're raising puppies and you want to raise a poodle, you breed a poodle to a poodle, similar organisms. Sometimes when people see this inbreeding, they think about, well, are you talking about families where somebody marries their cousin and then they have children? That's inbreeding. Yeah, but that's not the theme of this concept here. The theme of this concept here is trying to preserve something very similar. So within dogs, you're trying to save a particular breed of dogs. Horses, maybe you're breeding quarter horses with quarter horses. So they're saying organism breeding A with another A. And what you're going to get out of the deal is you're going to get similar animals with the characteristics you like. Hybridization is where you're going to actually cross two organisms that are similar, but there's some variation within them. That doesn't mean you'd cross a fish with a dog, but you could cross two different breeds of dogs. Common Labrador retrievers are sometimes bred with little poodles, or not little poodles, but standard poodles, to create a hunting dog that doesn't shed its hair. All right, I'm going to leave the rest of these notes up